So hello everyone, welcome to the IG Live today. My name is Charmaine and I run an Instagram called The Canadian Wonder. And I usually host IG Lives to show people how they can travel more through different perspectives and through different unique careers. I focus mainly on helping people to travel cheaper, longer, and happier. And this is definitely one of the ways. And today I'm here with Hugo and he's here to tell us how to work on a yacht. Welcome, Hugo.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Hugo.
Did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Hugo from Super Yacht Sunday School. As the introduction shows, I've been a yachty for 8 years, and now my channel and myself are aimed at helping people that are interested in the industry or looking to transform themselves into yachting, whether for travel or just to find a new career. That's what we do, and we're helping people do it every day.
Awesome. So I'm just very curious. So how did you get started in this industry yourself?
So for me, it was very atypical because I was living in Florida, but we lived in Orlando, so I was pretty landlocked. I'd never been on a boat really for any prolonged period of time. I went to school for engineering. I did that, and it wasn't until I was backpacking, which is very similar to what you like to do, that was when met my first group of yachties. I met some South Africans that were in Myanmar, and then we traveled through Thailand, Indonesia. So I always loved traveling, and when I bumped into them, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I was kind of up in the air if I was going to go back to work my professional career or if I was going to look for something else. I was thinking about teaching English, a lot of different things, but it just kept sounding more and more attractive. And the more I looked into it, it was something very possible and doable to do, especially with the low budgets you have after backpacking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like when you travel with such a low budget, you realize, wow, like traveling is really possible. And there are so many ways that people can do it and it doesn't cost a lot of money. Contradictory to what most people think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was living out there. Some place I was staying for with Thailand, what, $1 a night when you have your own little microfiber because you don't want to spend an extra dollar to pay the hostel for a towel. So I'm well aware of that.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about working on a yacht. What type of jobs are available on a yacht for people?
Yeah. So to give some background, for anyone who doesn't know, super yachting or yachting in general, it's the high end boating on these really big boats, right? We're talking 150 foot or 150 meters and bigger, and it's really high end service, high end food, just high end hospitality in a lot of the most luxurious places, whether it's in the Mediterranean, whether it's really luscious spots in the Caribbean, and so forth. And the jobs that are available to people, there's a lot of different departments. There's deck, the deck department for anyone that likes working outside. There's the interior, which handles the hospitality, the service, the housekeeping. There's the chefs that handle the food, and then there's also the engineers that make sure everything's running and the lights are on. So depending on what someone's interested in, whether they like being technically inclined, whether they like working outside, whether they like being front face with people, that kind of determines what path they go down.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned there's so many options. And sometimes, like you said, like people who already have a professional background in something, they can kind of transition it to it. So, like if they're an engineer, for example, they can work as an engineer on the boat.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll see a lot of people. Maybe they used to be a mechanic, or maybe they were like a professional engineer or an electrician or something like that, and they can easily, when you understand how engines run or things like that, it's easy to transition into that on a boat.
Yeah, I like that. So, what kind of qualifications do most people have, besides, like, of course, those professional qualifications, but what kind of qualifications do you need to start working on a yacht?
So to start working on a yacht, it's actually really simple, and that's why it appealed to me when I was traveling. Because like I said, I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't have a lot of time before I needed to worry about a job. So it's the very minimum you need. You can pretty much do in about a week, and depending on what part of the world you're in, that could run you about a little thousand to $1,500. One is just a medical examination that proves, hey, this person's fit to work at sea. They're all good, and then the other one's called an STCW, which stands for Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping. And it's just a series of modules that include first aid, basic firefighting, and a lot of the skills that you need to be safe at sea. Because, like you might not know, but you need to, in the ocean, you need to be your own paramedics, you need to be your own fire department, and you need to kind of be a little self-contained unit. So it's a very basic set of introductory courses.
Amazing. And how long do those take? Are they like really simple? Are they expensive?
Yeah, so you only need about a week. So the SCCW takes about 5, 6 days, and then your medical examination you get done in an afternoon. So, like I was saying, depending on where you are in the world, about $1,000 give or take. Could be slightly cheaper in some parts of the world. Could be a couple hundred more in another part of the world.
Amazing. Yeah, that sounds great. So you feel like qualified when you're on the boat because obviously anything can happen and you need to be ready at all times.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's some people you bump heads with that sometimes like, oh, I don't really feel safe with you here. But yeah, for the most part, everything is good.
Amazing. So what are some of the entry level yachting positions that people can look into?
Sure. So going back with the four departments I was talking about, if you want to work outside, deckhand is the base level. The for the interior, if you like, mentioned housekeeping, laundry, service, all of that, a stewardess is the entry level position there. Junior engineer or just a regular engineer would be the entry level for the engineering route. And then as a chef, it's very common. Some people start as like a stew cook or a stew chef or maybe a sous chef is very popular place to start.
Do you need some kind of experience for that, like for cooks, like what you mentioned?
Well, for chefs, yes, that's probably one of the ones where your prior history is looked at a lot. Like with a lot of the other base positions, you can start and go, "Hey, this is my first time on a boat. This is my first time
Mm,
serving someone," and they're going to train you. But for in terms of cooking, yeah, they'll look at if you had culinary training, which isn't mandatory, but did you have that? Have you worked in restaurants? What is your background? Just what is your qualifications for cooking?
great. Yeah, I like how that, of course, there's some professions that you mentioned that you need probably some experience or background, but there are other ones that you could just kind of like hop on and they'll train you. So I think that's a really great way for you to just kind of experience to see, oh, if this is really a lifestyle that I like.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so I already see a question, which is awesome. So the question says, what do you have to do with the medical examination?
So the medical examination is quite basic. It checks, depending on what you want to do, it checks your color blindness. If you want to work the deck department, you need to be able to see the difference between red and green light, just because that'll determine what aspect you're looking at a boat that's coming your way. And it also checks simple things. Your blood pressure is safe and normal. Basically that you look like you have a pulse and you're not about to keel over. Depending on which country you're from, sometimes they make you do a little more thorough, like carrying some weights back and forth, seeing your heart rate, but mostly it's just vision. It's like a normal physical, basically.
Mm, yeah, they just want to make sure that you're well, like you're gonna be
Correct.
okay on the boat. Yeah,
Exactly.
which I think,
Exactly.
which obviously is really important because when you're at sea, you might not have as many services as if you're on land.
Exactly. Yeah, when you're 6 hours away from port, it's a lot different than being able to catch an ambulance in 10 minutes.
Exactly. So I can see why those are really important. And I know sometimes with those kind of like any kind of agencies that like serve overseas employees, they want to make sure that you're doing well before you land in the country as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay, so I have another question here. Ooh. So are you likely to get a job as a green crew member, or do many boats require a yacht master or other qualifications?
Oh, that's a good question. Very specific. So, yeah, myself, I started green. My partner started green. A lot of people I know started green. I know the industry, it depends on what type of boat. You'll see they are listing some qualifications as a for an entry level position, but every boat kind of has its preference with, let's say, with insurance companies or owners. So, like I was saying, it's very, very possible to get a job as green crew. I did it, and I mean, there's plenty of people I see doing it right now. If a program's requiring something else to start with, then just scratch it off and move to the next one.
Yeah, and I guess it really depends on the position, like you said. Like there's a lot of positions that doesn't require much, unless it's a very technical position,
Correct.
right? Okay. Wow, these questions are coming in. Look at that. You're popular. Okay, so another question. How much does being colorblind limit you?
So I did. I mentioned the color blindness thing just briefly. If you want to work deck wise and one day be an officer or captain, that's going to basically put an asterisk on your file saying that at night you need someone else with you to be able to distinguish what color the lights are. Just like I said, because if you're coming up on a boat's right or left side or port or starboard, but right or left, or if they're coming at you from head on or away, you just need to be able to tell what colors are there. So if you can't do that alone, again, if you want to be a captain of a small boat, that'll pretty much limit that you've always got to have someone with you. So it is something. If you don't plan on ever being a captain, then it's completely fine. If you're just gonna be a deckhand or work on other, work on the interior and be colorblind if you want.
Nice. Another one is, does it matter if you have contact lenses? I'm guessing, do they care about like the perfect vision or if you have glasses or contacts?
Yeah, so I wear contact lenses. Contact lenses are great. They do test you with and without them, if you say so. Just because in an emergency, let's say you might not be near your glasses, right? So they would just want to see that you're not completely blind. But again, like any physical, all that matters is that you have at least, what we've established is a basic minimal vision to live with. It's not they're not checking you to prescribe glasses.
Nice. Awesome. So this is actually my next question, but Bonnie has already asked it. But basically, what is a typical schedule for crew members, and do you have like time off?
Yeah, so this is a loaded question, and it depends on a few things. So I'll kind of walk through. If there's no one on the boat, in terms of like there's no guests visiting, and it's not the middle of the season, you're just at port and living a regular life. It tends to be 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, like your standard job, Monday to
Mhm.
Friday, weekends off. And we shift into a different type of schedule when we're what we call on trip or when there are guests on in the heat of the season. And then it falls more on, we do basically 12 to 14-hour days and we kind of break it up so there's continuous coverage from someone, at least one person in each department throughout the day. But you do about 12 to 14 hours and then you'll have the rest of the time is break. One will be the long break, like 10 hours of rest at night. And then you'll have like a 2 to 3 hour break during the day. So that's how most boats tend to do it when you have guests on board. And let's say the trip's 7 days, you'll do that for straight
Mhm.
7 days. And then the idea is they'll get off and hopefully you'll have time to kind of reset the boat. Maybe you have a quick day off in between or whatever, and then you bring on the next set.
And how often do guests come in on out? Like how long are those duration periods?
Oh, right. Sorry. So you were also asking about time off. So our regular contracts are about 45 days off a year. Some boats do more. Some boats also do, let's say you work 2 months and then you're off 2 months kind of thing. And then
Mm,
you're always on contract and you're also always getting paid. And then to answer you about guests, it depends on the vessel. Like the season's broken up into about like 2 to 3 months. And it's very common to do like, long stints where it's maybe like 2 weeks with minimal time off or 3 weeks. And then you squeeze in a few days and then you get another set of maybe seven days with gas, a day off, 7 days with gas, something like that. So over the summer, let's say in that 2 to 3 months, it can be sprints like that where you're going a little bit of extra time without time off, but then you can also make tips and then you're also staying busy. So then you switch back into like the regular 8 to 5 for the next 3 months afterwards. So it works kind of like that, the balance.
awesome. So it's like you work for maybe a period of time, then you get some time off, and then you work again.
Exactly. And then usually in that slow period, like I was saying, after the seasons is when people will use some of their 45 days off of a vacation or 60 or what have you.
Oh wow, they're that long. I didn't realize that they're all together. Like I thought they were breaking broken up through
No,
the
no, no.
year.
Yeah, sorry, should have expressed it. Yeah, most folks like you to take at least, they like it when you do it in big breaks because then you can reset, you kind of clear yourself. You were gone for a month and a half, you come back super refreshed. A lot of boats aren't very fond of, let's say, the more American or North American model, like take 2 weeks, come back. Like
Right.
it's much more European in that sense. Like someone would go, oh yeah, I'm going home for 4 weeks. I'll see you guys
Nice.
next month or something.
That's lovely. And obviously, because I'm in North America, like I would love to have a few weeks off like that.
Yeah, no, it's really nice, and that was one of the big jumps. Why I've always thought that in America the 2 week or 3 week model is really rough. You can't go to Asia pretty much because who's hopping on a plane to go to Japan for a week and then come back? So it's like okay, that part of the world you can't go to. Really deep in South America, you probably can't go to because it's like it's almost still 20 hours. So it's really nice to just go. Yeah, I'm not working for the next 6 weeks.
Right. And I like how it's kind of like you work really hard and then you get that time off and then you get to play for some time and then refresh, like you said. And yeah, it's a really nice work life balance, really.
Yeah, I think so too.
I love it. Another question. I guess it's more about nationality. So it says if I don't have experience in green card, how long is it going to take me to find a job? So I'm guessing it's more about like, is there a certain nationality you need to be, or what kind of people get recruited for this kind of job?
Right. So there's two facets of that question. They're asking one about the green card thing. So without getting too technical, there's two really different types of yachts. They're the ones that are registered in the United States, and they're the ones that are registered everywhere else. So the United States, back in like the late 1800s, they had a rule in order that they changed it. So American yachts are much more strict on what type of crew they can hire. And
Mm,
again, without getting too deep into the woods, let's just say that the general rule was and is, for the most part, if you're not American or a green card holder, then you can't work on American boats. There are exceptions, but that's pretty much that. So if you're looking in America in a period when most yachts are out, then yeah, it's going to be harder as non-American or non-green card holder. But overall in the industry, there's so much opportunity for non-American yachts, especially because the really big ones aren't registered in America. Again, without being too technical, based on tax havens and all kinds of stuff. So being not American, definitely not a problem. And then in terms of visas, if you're looking for work on a yacht that's in a certain country, you just need to be able to legally get to that country. So if
mm.
your nationality makes it hard to get to America, then finding a yacht that's in America right then is obviously not on the table. But then that opens up Europe or finding it in the Caribbean. But once you're on a yacht, they pretty much help you and take care of you in terms of getting visas to wherever they're going, because you're an employee, you've got proof that you're coming in and out of the country. So once you're on, and you just need to find ones that are in places that you can get to.
Amazing. So as long as you can get to that place, then and once you get hired, everything will be taken care of.
Correct. Right. So some passports are more easy. Like as an American, and I think Canadian too, you can land in Europe and you instantly get a Schengen, right?
Correct.
Correct. So a nationality that doesn't have that and has to apply to get into the EU, it's going to be harder for them to get on a boat that's based in France. But yeah, like I said, once you're there, you're on the market.
So is that to say that most people go looking for jobs front to face, like face to face? Like they go there and then they look for a job?
Your first ones, yeah, it's for someone like myself now with so much experience, and even after my first year, I could just apply online, and especially with the more qualifications I have, the more willing they are to just fly me from wherever I'm at. But when you're
Mhm.
new, and like I said, since it's so easy to start that you really just open the door and you've got candidates, it's not really worth it to fly someone in unless you have a reason to.
Got it.
So, so,
So
so
I guess,
green
yeah.
people. Oh, sorry, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know you were not finished.
Oh no, no, no. I was going to say, so to answer that question, yeah, someone that's new or green is networking at the docks, is going to the crew houses where are pretty much like hostels for yacht crew, meeting other people, finding out who's hiring, who's hot, who's going where. Oh, I'm not taking this job, but does anyone else want it? I
Mm,
heard this guy's hiring, and it's a lot of networking face to face. There's also like job boards that are similar to kind of a Craigslist, so people are networking on there too. There's Facebook groups. So you kind of do a little mix of everything at first, and then later on you get more formal and just using recruitment agencies or maybe word of mouth.
amazing. So where do you think are the popular destinations that people usually go for going on recruitment, looking for a job on the deck?
Correct. So to find jobs, you first figure out when you are in the year. So if you're looking for jobs in the summer, you can always go. So Florida in the U.S. is always hot because there's so many boats that go through there. But typically, the summer season is held in the Mediterranean. So if I wanted to find my first job on a yacht for the summer, I'd probably be getting to, let's say, south of France. Could be south of Spain. You'd be in like Palmer de Mallorca in that March, April time, trying to catch a boat before it starts the season in May. On the flip side, if I was trying to get on a boat before the Caribbean season, which is where they go from Florida and they go all down the Caribbean, some go to the Bahamas, some go to St. Lucia, et cetera, then I'd be looking to get to Florida or Fort Lauderdale in, mid or early November. So I could find something before they start leaving in mid-December or before Christmas and New Year's.
Got it. Yeah, so it really depends on the time of the year and then just, being active and, networking right there and then.
Right, exactly.
Sounds great. Um, Another question I want to ask is what can people expect to earn in terms of salary, especially for an entry level position?
Yeah, so every yacht's a little bit different, and some of them do tips, which is nice. The ones that charter, other ones are private and they don't tip. But I think for most entry level positions, people are looking between the depending on the size and everything, between that $3,000 to $4,000 range. More often, it's about 3,000 to 3,500. But some boats pay really well. Some boats pay
Mm.
on the lower side. But that's the range you can expect. And then if the boat charters and you make tips, you can walk away with even more. If you're every week pulling in another anywhere from 2 to 4,000 on some boats that are chartering well, some even more.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds really great, especially if you're not paying for rent, right? Because you get
Yeah,
to live on the boat for free and food, right?
yeah. Food's free, rent's free. What is it? Toiletries are free.
Hmm.
Snacks and all that are also free. People are always munching on stuff on yachts.
Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, and especially because like that means you don't have to buy groceries because groceries are very expensive right now. With
Yeah,
inflation, obviously rent is going up in most large cities as well. So yeah, so
yeah,
you're basically cutting a lot of those costs.
yeah. And your time too. I mean, you wouldn't think about it, but you don't have to cook any of your meals anymore. So you save
Mm-hmm.
time there. You're not commuting anywhere because you get out of bed. I mean, you can get out of bed 5 minutes before you have to be at work if you want. Well, I mean, whenever floats your boat. So you save time and money, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't think about it. Yeah, like you don't have to clean.
Yeah,
Who likes
yeah. That's or you kind of do, but it's on the clock even if you work on the interior. So when you get
right,
off at 5, that time's yours.
right. Nice. Yeah. So you have all the time and then obviously you get the vacation as well. Um, Talking about what you're talking about, the charter boats, someone did ask, would you rather work on a charter boat or would you work on a private owner?
So me myself right now, I definitely would prefer to work on charter just because I'd rather work a little bit more fast pace and kind of I like that movement, meeting new people. They come, they entertain them, they're gone. And I like that fast pace and you get paid more. Some people would prefer just a little more laid back and more kind of what do you call it? It's a stricter schedule, when they're coming, when they're going for the most part. And some people like that stability instead, and they trade that for the fast pace. But I like charter for sure. If I'm going to be there, I might as
Awesome.
well make the most amount of money that I can do.
Yeah, so I'm guessing charter pays a little bit more as well, it sounds like.
If you get on a good program, you sometimes they pay you a little bit less per month. Usually, I found that not that common actually. A lot of times it's very comparable. But the whole point is that you can make a lot more in tips, and that sometimes you do three, four. I mean, in a month in the summer, and that can really pad your wallet.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I totally even forgot about the tips, of course. That's extra bonuses on top of all those benefits that you mentioned and that salary as well. Let me see. I have a couple of more questions. Is Palma a good place to get started as a green deckhand?
So if you were going to weigh all the places again, depends on what time of the year. For motor yachts, it's more beneficial, from what I've seen at least, to go to Antibes versus Palma. Palma's a lot of sail yachts. Not to say that motor yachts don't go there, but there's more green crew in Antibes. But also sometimes that can work against you because if you've got more competition in the spot, it might be better to go somewhere that people aren't frequenting. But I would say if you're going this season, I mean, looking for this March, probably better off to go to Antibes.
Awesome. What is your opinion about crew houses?
So crew houses, it's funny because when you have a lot of experience, then you don't want to use them as much because you're tired of living around people, you're tired of living above and below people. But especially for green crew, it's really important because you know no one at the beginning. And it's really great to get to a crew house and start meeting people off the bat. You have to meet them. You have to have some interaction with people. And sometimes, even if you're not the most talkative or even if you're not the most outgoing, it's really important to just start networking. That's what this industry forces you to do. And a lot of times, these crew houses, even sometimes they still have connections in the industry. So a captain, or they might have heard something through the crew that were there, or whatever the fact. So they know of jobs that are available, and they'll pass that on to the tenants that are staying there.
Nice. So yeah, so what I've gathered through this conversation is like a lot of networking and being in front and talking to people. And that's where you get the most opportunities.
Definitely, definitely. It's all about networking, whether it's in face and then later it's following up via texting, WhatsApp, Facebook groups, etc.
Yeah, and getting to know the people and getting stay in the industry to get to know what is going on, what is the newest update.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
okay, another question: what is the salary after taxes? So how does taxes work if you're on a crew if you're on a yacht?
So taxes are probably the bane of everyone's existence on yachts. That's probably true on land too. It really depends on where you're from. Let's say like somewhere like the UK, they've always had seafaring, right? That's part of their DNA of their nation. So they have very favorable tax laws. If you're out of the country 180 days, I believe, and don't quote me, I'm not a UK
Mhm.
citizen, but from what I gather and I remember, once you have that and you're a seafarer, no tax. Somewhere like America is really unfavorable. Like I think you have to live outside of the U.S. for like 330 days and be able to prove non-tax residence.
Mhm.
So that's quite difficult. That happened to my girlfriend last year. She just missed the cutoff by like 20 days. I was like, man, we should have just stayed outside somewhere and figured out how to prove that. And somewhere else like Australia, I think also you have to prove non-residence. So not only just be outside the country, but prove a non-resident. So it depends where you're from, but I think for the most part, if you're not American, you tend not to get screwed.
Yeah, it's true. I think in Canada as well, if you could choose to be non-resident, but then you can't have any ties. So you can't have a housing, you probably don't
Mm-hmm.
have any accounts. You have to really prove that you're not going to be using any of the benefits that we offer here.
Yeah, exactly. Which I mean, you guys have better healthcare than us, so I guess at least you're getting something out of this deal. I feel like I'm just living outside and not reaping any benefits.
It's true, yeah. So it depends if you're coming back in. Like it's always nice to have that kind of benefit, or do you have to re-register? But it depends on how long you're out of the country.
Hmm.
Someone asked about how about B1 and B2 visas? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. So again, I think if anyone gathers anything from this conversation, it's probably the American side always throws a spanner in all the works. But without being an immigration lawyer, a B1, B2 it's a hybrid visa that's both working and holidays. Depending on what you get stamped in on both, and then you can kind of come in for tourism or what they call not looking for work, as in like you're looking to work in America, you're using that working visa to work on a yacht. So it's not saying that you're going to go work on shore, but the B1, B2 lets you work on a yacht. Because even though the yacht is in American waters and it's technically not American soil, again, without getting too technical, you need that visa to be able to look for work on a yacht in the US. Okay. Yep, I said that right. Again, if you're getting hired onto a boat already that's coming to America, super easy if you don't have it because it's easy to apply for it. And if you don't have it, then that's one of the times, like I was saying, it depends where you're from and you do an interview with the U.S. consulate or whatever the fact to get it. So it's just, if you're going to a boat that's in American waters and you want to fly there and you don't have any purpose of being in the country yet, then that's what you need. And there's people online that talk about the easiest ways to get it and such. Again, one strategy I could just say is that if you don't have it, try to get on a boat that's not there right now, right? It's in Europe or it's in the Caribbean, and then it'll be easier to do the whole shebang later.
Got it. Yeah, lots of yeah, I know you're not an immigration professional, but like yeah, I think those are some of the people concerns, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we pay our taxes properly? How do we
Yeah,
do our
yeah.
visa? Like the legit concerns.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, I crossed it so many times. I can answer pretty well. I just wanted to put that disclaimer there, right? I'm not a lawyer.
Absolutely. Where would be the best place to look for work as a greenie during April and May? I know you covered a couple of times. I'm not sure if you covered that period.
Yeah, so I don't mind saying it. I know people jump in at different times. So that period of time, you can go two ways. You can either, if you can get into America easily, if you're already in America, you can definitely find a boat in Florida that's either going to stay on this side of the world or it's going to be crossing over through the Atlantic and getting to the Mediterranean. Or you can cut straight to the chase and go to the Mediterranean. And then the yachts that are going to be there are already there. And then the yachts that are going to be going there are also recruiting from there because they know they're going there.
Awesome. Are there any crew houses in Palma de Mallorca?
There are. I don't know them by name. I don't. I'd have to look. There are definitely um, crew houses in Palma. You could use Google. You could use Instagram, or if they want to follow up with me after this chat, I can also point them in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you guys have more questions, definitely Hugo is available. Give him a follow. And then you can message him. I think there's one more question I missed. Okay, this one's gonna be a good one. When going for an interview, what are some important questions to ask about your job that you're about to take?
That's a really good question. So what I always say the three P's, and I'm probably going to trip up over it because now I'm online. So it's always good to ask. It's always ask about the pay, right? Your salary. Sometimes online the listings don't say it, so you want to make sure you ask about that. You want to ask about the package. What's the leave? What's the medical benefits? What's the anything? Do they offer training? What do you call it? Like an allowance for training? Do they
Right.
pay for your flights back home? Like you can get a lot in your package that really makes you can get an extra month's salary, right? You can get 13 months in a year, and all these things that kind of help you paint the picture of what's worth it. The itinerary is also something that for some people might be very interesting. You might want to go to Alaska. That's why you're in this, right? You're here because you just want to travel. You want to go to the Mediterranean for the first time. That's very different than getting on a boat that just stays in Florida locally or something like that. If you could ask, and then more of on a professional level, you like any interview, you always want to sound intelligent and like you're on it, you're thinking about it. So you can obviously ask the person more about like the management style on the boat. What are some of the how's the atmosphere like? What are the ages of the dynamics of the crew? What do the crew like to do um, when on their off time? Are they adventurous? Are they drinkers? Because all that when you're working, living, having fun with all these people, it's very important not just what they do professionally, but what they do outside of the boat. Because that's what you're probably going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have a question. So I know that obviously you help people. So do you help with recruitment as well?
Correct. Yeah. So that's what we're doing now. We're both helping people that are interested in an industry come in, learn, figure out how do we navigate this, how do we do this, just have a springboard advice, general, just hand holding throughout the whole process. But at the same time, now we're having a lot of people coming to us asking for crews, so we're handling both sides of the equation. So sometimes it's for experienced positions, and then sometimes there's allowances. Like right now, we're hiring for a 100 footer, and that one can have green crew or sorry, not just green, but like new crew at the bottom. So I have a student that I'm trying to get on that boat too. So we're starting to do both.
Amazing. So you do the education side, but you also do the recruitment side.
Correct. Yes.
So if people are on this call and they're interested in, they're interested in getting started in finding a job for yacht, would you be like, should they contact you, or would you be a good contact for them to contact you for?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If they're interested in working on a yacht, if they're interested in learning how to get into yachting, both go ahead, give us a follow. Super Yacht Sunday School. Go to the link in our bio. That one's for if people are interested in getting into the industry. But if they're also looking at getting onto a boat, we've got a few listings that are going right now. We're posting it on our stories. We've got a few posts that are actually in our feed showing three different boats that are hiring, so they can get the emails and information from that, or just go ahead and give me a message and I'll point you in the right direction, right? I'll just play like traffic controller.
Amazing. So you work with recruitment agencies as well. So if people want to get their foot in the door, you might be able to connect them with people in the industry.
Correct. Yeah. Well, not even just with recruitment agencies, but directly with the yacht. Like that's what we're doing. We're a recruitment agency at the same time.
Amazing. What advice do you have for a greenie to find a job?
I think if I could give any advice, and maybe it sounds cliche, just not to give up. I know it's really hard sometimes to get a lot of rejection. We're not used to that, but that's kind of how yachting is at first, especially when you're just trying to sink your teeth in. And the more you stay determined, and the more you network, the more you try. You start getting your first day working on a boat, and on your next boat, maybe you work a week, then you're on it for 2 weeks, then someone gets sick, and then that becomes your first full time job. And then once you get the first one, everything is easy after that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just getting that first one. So a lot of people get disgruntled. Just really keep on it and just stay focused on it, because there's so many people that want to get into this, right? They want to try yachting and they come and they drink a lot for a couple of weeks. They meet a couple of people and then they just like, it didn't happen, and they go home. But the people who come in and they treat it like a job, and in the morning they're out there hustling, trying work, they're networking, they're texting people, they're going, hey, have you heard of anything? Like those are the people that start working on the yacht, and those are the people that stay in it.
Yeah. So how can so what is the so I know you said like obviously you can work with recruitment agencies, but I think from what I understand is like if you're a greenie, the best thing is to actually get out there and to show your face, to
Yeah,
start talking to people.
correct. So there's a term we use, it's called dock walking. And as the term probably implies, you walk down a dock. You would do that, let's say, for instance, you do it around 8:15 in the morning, because most yacht crews start at 8 in the morning. So you come in after everyone's had their coffee, and you see the guys are starting to like wash the boat or work on whatever they're doing. Go, hey, are you guys? Can I talk to X person in charge or someone in charge? They'll come down. You'll be like, hey, I'm so and so. I'm really interested in if you guys are looking for anyone, if you guys need anyone during this week. And a lot of times that's how boats find what we call day workers. They're like, shit, we got in today. We need to leave in 3 days because we're going to this place and we need this thing fixed and we need extra hands because we're up to our ears in work before the owner gets here. And they're going to start looking. And we have a lot of channels that we look for people. But if someone's right there at the end of the dock, it's like, oh shit, that guy came this morning, right? Yeah, dig his CV up. Let's just give him a call. It's a done deal. He's already here. It's much easier than putting a listing out on a local page online going, hey, is there anyone available? Like, you don't want to do that, but you will if you have to. So I would say that, and just treating every person they meet as someone that might get them a job. On my first yacht, I found it from someone that was someone that was taking one of the certification courses that I brought up earlier, the SECW. And he was a 45-year-old guy and probably the last person in class that anyone thought was going to get onto a boat, right? A lot of people were like, yeah, he's probably, maybe he'll get onto it as an engineer or something, but he's not what you'd expect, right? That's not what a young person would expect. But I texted him a week later and I asked him, hey, have you heard of anything? I'm looking for work. And he said, yeah, come down. They actually need a second engineer on the boat that I'm helping right now. We're painting the engine room. So come down tomorrow. So I drove down from Orlando. I started working there the next day. I was there for a week, and then they said, oh, shit, the budget's run out. We're going to have to let you go. And I'm like, shit, okay, I'm going to have to look for another boat again. And they said, but we actually have a position for deckhand open. Are you open to that? Because I was helping an engineer. I said, yeah, that's fine. I said, I'm on the boat, it's fine. So then, in 2 weeks, I was crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and then I was doing my first Mediterranean summer, and that went from there. So if I hadn't thought to just try everyone that I had met up until that point, then I would have missed it. Maybe I would have been looking for another few weeks, and maybe would have found something else. Maybe it would have been harder. Who knows? But just all it took was a text message. All it took was just that little bit of effort.
And I think you just mentioned a really good point that I totally forgot is that like when you're doing those certification, you have that network immediately with people, not just the people who teaches, like the professors, but also like other people who are looking, like people who just like you. So you kind of built that connection instantly and you already have those extra connection. You're text away, literally, is what you said.
Yeah. And once you form that connection, then you get, let's say you day work on a boat, and then you suddenly know 5 or 6 other people. Maybe befriend them, right? Then you day work on another boat, and pretty soon you've got a network of about 50 people that you can just broadcast a quick, hey, anyone know about work? And then, oh shit, yeah, actually, I really liked Hugo, and I think I had a mate of mine that was talking about something on Instagram earlier. You suddenly connect the two people, and bam, it's everyone's 6 degrees away is what they say, the degrees of separation, and that's how yachting works. Probably like 2.5. I'm probably 2.5 away from a billionaire, any of them.
Yeah. Good point. Somebody asked, can you combine deckhand and nanny together? I'm guessing taking two different jobs together.
Yeah. There's I've got a good post about this. So if anyone starts following me, they'll see I have like a few different yachting quizzes, and one of them is about positions. There are a lot of hybrid positions that exist. Like for instance, deck and interior is mostly a deck stew, someone that helps both ways. Something like a deck nanny is a really specific hybrid. So I want to say that you can definitely get deck and interior hybrids. You can get like a security slash nanny in a way. Like for instance, I had a friend who worked on about a 200-foot yacht. And whenever the guests went ashore, whenever the kids went to land, he was the deck crew member on the boat, but he would go with them kind of as like a security slash nanny, basically just swipe the credit card and make sure no one gets, lost. So in a way, that's kind of like that. You get a lot of weird intermixes when you're taking people ashore and you're just kind of like a chaperone in a way. Like they're doing a cool excursion, you're probably doing it too, just making sure the kids are there and eat the whatever the hell that they're supposed to eat, whatever. So that's probably the closest answer I can give to that. So there are some hybrids. There's a lot of like what do you call it? Like personal trainer slash deckhand, yoga instructor slash interior, and those are present on a lot of the big yachts.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's great. You get two experiences in one. Even better.
Yeah. And then whenever you do a hybrid, it's sometimes it sucks because you're doing two different jobs mixed into one, but sometimes it's nice because when one of them is getting just like a little bit like fed up with it, you can just kind of go off and do the other one.
Mm-hmm. I have another question. It says, do you offer food hygiene and safety level two?
Negative. So I do not offer that right now. But the plus to that is that there's a lot of people online that offer food and hygiene safety level two. I know, I think I'm saying one word in reverse, but that's offered, especially since COVID. That's one of the ones that was very quickly put on the online scape. So if you Google that for your home country, or again, if you give me a message, I can point you in the right direction, and we've got partners that offer it.
Awesome. Um, I think this might be the last question, at least from right now. You have a lot of questions. Um,
Yeah,
what
no
ports
worries.
what ports in Europe are the most popular to get day work?
That's very good. So Antibes, super popular for day work. I was mentioning Palma is a big one. Imperia in Italy, I know a lot of yachts go there. That's again getting very close to that French border between Imperia. Then you quickly cross, like I said, France, and then you're in that part of the south of France in Nice. Yeah. So Nice is also one. Nice is big. I'm trying to think. Monaco's huge, right? I think that's quite a few, but I would say that little south of France Italian border right there, and leading that back up to Spain, of course, that's a nice hotspot for people to start. Like they don't go to the boot of Italy and start there. They kind of stay in that triangle because then you're just a train ride away, an hour kind of in any direction, and you're still all along that Côte d'Azur coast.
Got it. Is it a very competitive industry, do you think, to work on a yacht?
There's a lot of people that get into, but it's like a yes and no because a lot of
Hmm.
people, like I said, they want to work on yachts. Just kind of, I think a lot of people in life want to do a lot of things, but they don't actually try.
Right.
If it like now, if you saw my inbox, being a recruiter, seeing how people can't even include their name, sometimes remember their CV, sometimes even direct me by name, and it's like those people don't stand out, or there's so many people that show up to their first yacht and they just do a terrible job. They're late. They're on their phone messing around and you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this was a chance for you to maybe even I'm not hiring, but I definitely know other people in this marina that are going to say, oh, we're looking for someone. And I could have been your way of getting to that. And now you're definitely not in. So there's a lot of people that are trying. But I think if you actually care, you actually try, it's pretty easy to stand out.
Yeah, I think people maybe don't take it serious enough because they might think it's just a travel job or it's just something that they want to do
Mm-hmm.
short term or it's just a way to save money. You know what I mean? Like I think some people don't take it professionally, and I think maybe that might be one of the problems, I would assume.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because of the TV show or I don't know if it's just because we're getting to see these cool places, but yeah, a lot of people get it. I got into travel, but I also just knew it was a job. So, I mean, I didn't want to get fired, but some people just think that, I don't know, you just show up and it'll be all fine and dandy. And it's still a job.
Yeah, I think that's something that people have to remember that like yes, like yachting has a lot of benefits and it's great, but you also have to take it seriously because at the end of the day it is a job, like you said.
Yeah.
Are there any roles for doctors on super yachts?
So doctors, I haven't seen. There's a lot of nurse jobs, like student nurse or just nurse on the big yachts, like I was saying. I haven't seen doctor, but again, that would just determined by the owner. So
Mm.
I would want to say there's none out there. I'm sure if someone was willing to pay for it, but I can tell you that there's a lot more nurse positions on board that I've seen.
Do you think that if you're in a professional role, such as an engineer or a nurse, like those kind of roles, do you think it's easier for people? Like it's easier to get in?
So it's again, I hate doing this, but I think it's again one of those yes and no's.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, the pool of jobs for nurses, it would be like instead of let's say deckhand, where it's like, yeah, every boat has a deckhand.
Hmm.
Nurse, every boat doesn't have a nurse.
Got it.
And not even every big yacht has a nurse because they'll have a medical officer who's been trained in certain things, but you'll have a lot of the really big yachts or someone that has an owner that's maybe with questionable health or has health concerns, they're going to go, yeah, I don't mind paying for a nurse. Why not?
Mhm.
We're a world traveling yacht and I want a nurse. So when you find those boats that have it, and you can find them online, and you niche it down to what you're looking for, there's probably a super small pool of people that are actually applying for those jobs. So if you're a nurse with a great CV that is looking to travel or change it up, and you're actually like worth your salt, you're probably going to have a really easy time once you find those boats. So it might be harder to find the position, but easier to stand out.
Got it. I like how you said that. Like it works both ways. Like, yes, a deckhand might be easier to get in and more positions, but maybe there's more people who's qualified because you don't need much experience. So it does
Yeah.
work both ways.
Yeah, of course.
That's great. Thank you so much. That was so much information. And I think there's so many great questions. We had like 20 people on at one time for like the last hour. So that's amazing. Did you want to add anything else? Like, what is your final advice for anybody who's listening or somebody who's thinking about yachting, who wants to get into the yacht industry?
Yeah, I think if anyone's, like I was saying, if anyone's interested, it's a very, very doable career that doesn't need a lot of prerequisites and a lot of prior experience. I didn't have any boating experience. So many people I know didn't. It's really nice and really easy when you have someone that can map it out and kind of answer all your questions along the way. So if anyone is curious, by all means, please reach out to Super Yacht Sunday School. That's what we do. It's just easy, even just a sanity check, because I know when I started, and even though I've been doing this for 8 years, like my family also think I'm crazy or work on a cruise ship. So like it's still very smoke and mirrors. Even though people see it on the TV, it just kind of seems like something that's not real, and it is. And when you have someone else that goes, "Yeah, it's not a big deal. I've done it," and you're like, "Oh shit, okay, I'm not crazy," because you're just sitting there. You're the only person who's like, "Can I do this? Is this real?" And everyone's telling you, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" So you're not crazy, and just give us a follow to Sunday School.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's exactly it. Like there's so many careers out there that people don't learn about it in school or, it's talked about in the media. But like there's just more things popping up. And I think that's what Instagram has really helped as well. It's
Yeah.
like you get to see what other people are doing and that, these things are real. I'm
Yeah.
talking to you right now. You're real.
Yeah, and the nice thing is you don't have to do it forever, right? Like that you want to just dip your toes in, or you want to see a few places and just cross off some things while you figure out your life. Like you can do that. If you want to get to the position where you can kind of always just do this temp while you run your own business or do whatever you like to do, that's also a freelance career. You can do that too. It's very flexible, which is nice. It's not like your standard 8 to 5 that you've got to do it for 40 years and then you retire and hang out in a rocking chair. Like you can do whatever you want with this. If you want to sail a boat until you're 80 and die behind the helm, then you can do that too.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I like the flexibility. I like that, you have those breaks, you have like a nice salary, you have and everything is pretty much included. So like your life is just so much easier as well. So yeah, it's nice. It's a good, nice, I would say it's a good change of scenery for people who's looking for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I know a lot of people also, I'll say, they might be scared. Oh, I can't be out at sea for that long, or I need to come home. And I don't know everyone's situation, but I know when I had only, 2 to 3 weeks of holiday, it wasn't like I was going home to see my family that often. So now having, like I said, 45, 50, even 60 days off, it's a lot easier to go see my family and then also do things that I want to do. So you don't have to choose, oh man, I don't really like seeing my family, or I don't want to see grandma now. I have to give up like sacrificing going on this vacation. And it's none of that like, oh, in 2 years I'm going here. No, 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 no. Like in 6 months, I know I'm going to Thailand. I know I'm doing this. Like we're planning it with our buddies. It's in the calendar, and that's really nice. It's really nice to take life on your own terms.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Hugo, for joining me. Thanks for answering all the questions. I think I speak for everybody who really appreciated all your advice today, answering all the questions that everyone has. It was just really great speaking to you, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jermaine. It was great. I look forward to chatting with you anytime.
Yep, awesome. I will keep in touch. Talk to you later. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too. Bye.